Welcome to Business News. I'm your host, Amr Abdullah. What's up, y'all? Episode 45. We about to have us a great time here because we got the man, Anthony Bonazzo. What's up, Anthony?
What's up?
This dude just hit up last night the NBC Breakout Festival.
I did.
Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Not only that, how many comedians were there?
Probably about 15. But
And
there's also shows tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday.
Oh,
too.
snap.
Yeah.
Well, of the 15 last night, you told me that you closed it out,
I
baby.
closed it out.
You
It
brought
was
down
great.
the house.
It's an honor. It was packed. It was amazing.
What could happen? What could come of that potentially?
Probably
what would be
nothing.
Like? Probably nothing.
I don't know. They say that people from NBC are there all weekend and industry, but who knows?
It's probably like the interns and the janitors from NBC that come.
I don't know. I was just like, I'm just gonna have fun and do the show, and it was cool to do it. So I'm not gonna think anything otherwise.
Good for you. Smart man.
Yeah.
That's called wisdom right there, baby.
Yeah.
Do it
It's
and
called
let it
years of being let down.
go. Years of tears.
Yeah, exactly. Years. It sounds like my first album name. Years of tears in comedy.
Uh-oh, that was Brooke Hoerr laughing. What's up, Brooke Hoerr? Coming out of London. We're piping you in through FaceTime. Brought to you by FaceTime.
Doing good. We're well here in East London, Isle of Dogs. It's a nice, quiet place to live in between stabbings.
Like it, brother. Brooke, guys, is a he's originally an Illinois guy, living in London now because some of his trading years were spent in London. Brooke, have you guys ever heard of the London Whale? No? No one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have. Brooke's the only one that has. That is not Brooke, by the way. Brooke is not the London Whale, but he's the second. He's the second closest thing to the London Whale. The London Whale, Anthony, is a trader at J.P. Morgan that manipulated the market in such a way to cause huge amounts of losses for J.P. Morgan. And then he was like, "Well, do you remember the story about the London Whale, Brooke?"
Why are we calling him the whale?
Well,
Not by
ultimately
his
he
first
was
name.
Ultimately he was betting on home prices rising indefinitely, and so it was based on an interest rate play, and when mortgage rates didn't move in the right direction, it collapsed the whole portfolio, from what I understand. So that portfolio was one that had a bonus collected on it for 5 years when the trade was going the right way.
Wow.
And he was adding to it hand over fist, and then when it went the other direction, he may have even resigned right before it happened.
Oh, is that right?
Get out before the smoke.
He wasn't ever going to be able to get the trade off. I don't think so. He resigned, but that trade ended up costing a lot. So but you are with sharks in these markets, and when you're lifting offers and hitting bids with large amounts of contracts, it's more like a battlefield in an intraday basis than investing, which is what you focus over the long term doing.
Right. Yeah.
So this is very similar to the housing market collapse.
I mean, it was
But like a single individual.
It's exactly one dude betting against
He
the
did
collapse.
everything that a whole team of people did.
Exactly.
This guy's like a Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, we have
He's the Ken Griffey
we have
Jr.
a similar
of JP Morgan.
we have a similar trade on right now
Who's we?
with everybody crowding into shorting volatility. So you've got all these option sellers out there, and they've been making money for 10 years straight. So it just money attracts more interest,
Right.
and so this trade is so crowded that we're sort of like on the precipice of another disaster. I mean, we're already long in the tooth in the economic expansion. It's the second longest in U.S. history, and then when you look at just typical market cycles, we're well over the 7-year mark where
Right.
you usually get a bit of a bear market.
Yep, and
we've
it's not
had
coming.
any,
It's
so
not coming, baby. Well, hold on, Brooke.
Bubblylicious.
You brought up, yeah, bubblelicious. I agree. You brought up option trades, like trading option volatility or trading volatility. That shouldn't make any sense to most people listening because that's a pretty what's the way detailed transaction that people will do in the markets that like sophisticated traders will do. So we'll explain that at another time. Before we jump into that, let's introduce our boy Yahya. What's up, Yahya?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Good, man. Yahya's wearing a straight up black thobe, and no one should understand what the word thobe is unless you speak Arabic. How do we describe what a thobe is? It's like a male
Dress.
Yeah, it's basically what it is.
Garment, but like no one says garment anymore.
You just did.
your energy level
Sounds
doesn't
comfortable.
match the intro. He's like, let's give it up for our boy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're like, hey, I'm wearing a dress.
My bad.
I'm wearing a dress. Yo, let's jump into this. This is going to be a little bit on the shorter side. Let's jump straight into it. We're going to talk tariffs. We're going to talk antitrust stuff. We're going to talk the Fed and how, once again, we always confirm the Fed is super important. I wore the right shirt today for the Fed, as Anthony pointed out. I got my camo shirt on.
Castro.
So yeah, I'm the Palestinian Fidel Castro. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Tariffs. So May was the worst month for stocks, right? We're now June 7th. Today's Friday. We're taping. May was the worst month for stocks in all of 2019. In fact, they had a straight 5 weeks in a row of losses. So stocks were taking it on the chin. Oil was taking it on the chin. Everyone was spooked out, you know. A lot of it was because we were having a pretty big pissing match with China, which continues. It's all on trade. And then out of left field, we done smacked the shit out of Mexico. We're just like, you ain't getting out of this shit either. We're like Bluto. You remember Bluto from Popeye and the big like cartoon dust cloud?
Except we have no spinach.
To
combat it with.
We're
like, we're going to pay extra on that spinach now that we just tariffed.
That we just tariffed, exactly. We got cheeseburgers in the White House. That's what we got. So tariffs are out. There's no let up. The market was down for 5 straight weeks. Then on Monday, the United States government, different organizations, you guys might have heard about this, came out with some investigations that they're beginning into Google. First of all, the Department of Justice came out and said, yo, Google, we are about to do some antitrust investigation. We think that you are monopolizing the online marketing or online advertising world.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
Who else do you hear people using other than Google?
Right.
Ask Jeeves. It's not around anymore.
I'll tell you what. Ask Jeeves. They never had these kind of problems.
Yeah, because they're homeless now.
Jeeves is homeless.
Yeah, Jeeves is on the corner. We'll work for Google for food.
My guess is with the name Jeeves, he's probably on an East London corner somewhere, right, Brooke?
Yeah, I think Jeeves is the butler's name, right?
It is. He's given Jack the Ripper
too?
tours in
The icon for
London.
Jesus also above.
Yeah, that's where he went. That's what happened to him.
So the Department of Justice is literally bending Google over. Full cavity search. This is the image I need you to have is basically Amr Abdullah going through TSA. That's what Google's experiencing right now.
What prompted this other than, the obvious? What?
It's been a long time coming. The government's been threatening to break up Google the way they broke up like Standard Oil, or they broke up Microsoft, or they broke up AT&T, like the Bells.
But so like I never trust that that's the person's motive. Like is there something that you know what I mean? Like
the government?
maybe they're like Google knows something that we don't want anybody else to know, or they can easily find stuff about all of us.
That's a great point. You know who would know more about that?
I never
is
trust
Brooke.
that it's somebody's motive that like it's actually for the people. It's
Brooke,
always something underlying.
Brooke, why do you think did you hear about this, Brooke? That the government's investigating Google? They're going to do a full-blown cavity search on them. What do you think is the true reason? Do you think it's really that Google is just monopolizing online advertising, or do you think it's something else?
Well, I mean, you know, I always refer to the quote by Mark Twain: "If you don't read the newspaper, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed, and if you read the newspaper, you're misinformed."
Damn.
So true. Especially today.
So I never know all the motives for why the U.S. government decides to do what it does. I mean, I imagine that because information is power right now, and it's all about zeros and ones in data. Every market's being driven by data. And those organizations have the greatest amount of data and their wealth is so great that maybe someone in the current government feels that they're a threat to that government with their resources, with their ability to collect all that information on everyone around the globe,
now, Brooke,
and be able to refer to it like some kind of Stasi file no one could imagine 50 years ago.
Right.
Brooke, who in the government, the United States government, would be that insecure to feel threatened by Google? Is there anyone?
I can't picture anybody.
No, they're all super secure. Everyone's a stable genius in that place.
As you were saying that, I was about to give you like a side eye, and I'm like, "There's no way this is a real question."
Yeah, I think you're right, Brooke.
I also, I genuinely feel that it's a party conflict. I think that the Silicon Valley and those firms they tend to be progressive and to the left, socially and fiscally. And then you've got the new government, which is sort of changing the laws to get revenue flowing into their party coffers. Because remember, the Democrats have been in power for 8 years. So I think, the government prints money and it hands out contracts with that newly created money, the newly created debt. And those go to the closest associates of the occupants of Congress. So maybe it's just, hey, of course, Google and of course these companies are after the Republican Party. The Republican Party is a different mob,
Right.
with a different agenda in some cases.
Right. That's right. Well, so Monday, the government announced that they're going to do this cavity search on Google, and right on the heels of that was the Department of Justice, DOJ. The FTC then announced right away that they're going to be doing their own investigation into Facebook. Right, so Google, basically all online marketing goes through either Google or Facebook. So the government is about to rake them over the coals. I think it's something like Google has 37% of all online marketing, and Facebook has 22%. So about 60%, almost 2/3 of all online marketing is going through these two companies, which is going to obviously hugely impact prices and consumers. But on that announcement on Monday, the market took another dive lower, making it an even worse, 6 weeks in a row. This was Monday. Today's Friday. Facebook was down 7.5%. Google was down 6.1%. Amazon down 4.6%. They're probably next. And Netflix, even though they weren't doing shit, they were just down 2% because they're just like, there might be sloppy seconds on Netflix somehow, some way.
That's why we got to invest in those medical marijuana dispensaries.
Cannabis, baby. So
one of the most...
It's hot right now. No pun intended.
I was going to say, one of the most hypocritical things...
By the way, guys, wait, Brooke, before you keep going, you guys understand, Brooke and I connect because we're both former, investment trading guys. Brooke was more an independent trader. I was at JP Morgan. And then we both around the same time took this more artistic approach, left that world. Brooke and I both left that world and then went on this artistic journey that we're both on in the world of comedy. So we're not only getting some straight-up amazing, legit street cred from Brooke, but he's funny as hell, too.
Thanks, mate. We've had fun.
We have had fun.
I like this so far, yeah.
Well, so I'm sorry, man. I cut you off.
I was just going to say, thanks a lot for that. It's kind of, I was going to say the most hypocritical thing about this trust busting is that's typically a left type of approach to things, trust busting. But
what is trust busting?
I don't know how any kind of and this is always the hypocrisy of the right. They're just the biggest hypocrites. They're the bigger hypocrites socially when they often get caught in affairs or homosexual relationships when they're publicly against it. But they're also just fiscal hypocrites. Ronald Reagan, every right-wing party president has always brought us deeper into debt, partly because the money supply demands it. Debt must expand exponentially for an infinite amount of time because that is what our money is. Debt is money. So they're both just spending. It's a little bit of a joke to say that the Republicans are conservative. There's nothing conservative about them. There's nothing conservative about spending millions of dollars bombing third world countries or billions.
No, hell no.
And that never mind the obviously never mind the social toll and the bad will globally. Right. So yeah, it is funny that Trump, but if you'll get a supporter of his, they'll defend this trust busting because they perceive a political agenda that's different inside those companies.
When you're saying trust busting, are you saying like these committees, whoever investigate Facebook and Google, they're breaking up, they're trust busting, they're busting up these companies because of antitrust?
Yeah, well, they want to break them up. They've even mentioned that they're investigating whether there's some antitrust issues. But my point is, these are privately created companies, and they employ countless people. Never mind the fact that we use their products and we seem to be satisfied because we continue to do so.
Right.
So if they're employing people, what great idea is the Trump administration going to have by breaking those up or taxing their online, whatever they do, they're just going to do something obnoxious with the money. Maybe invade Venezuela.
Right, another country. Right. Well, so okay. So after this whole trust busting got announced on Monday, on Tuesday, right? This is why we always talk about how important the Federal Reserve is. On Tuesday, the head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, our boy Jerry, this dude came out and said, yo, if these tariffs and all this stuff really, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, if shit hits the fan.
I heard him say that on CNN.
Right? He was on C-SPAN. I think it was C-SPAN. If shit really hits the fan, we're not going to lower interest rates. Like, we might lower interest rates. We might, So basically, the markets took the F off on this dude saying that one sentence. And they haven't looked back. Wednesday, up. Thursday, up. Today's Friday, up again. This shows you how powerful the Fed is in financial markets. Basically, he's like, yo, we might cut rates. And everyone now is expecting the Fed at their July meeting, right? There's an 80% chance, people are estimating, that the Fed will cut interest rates, make it cheaper to borrow money, whether you're a credit card consumer, a student loan, mortgage, or really what really matters more is a corporate debt if you're borrowing for your company.
The dollar's been down over the same time period. So if you adjust for inflation, that market may not have even risen that much at all because the dollar's been going down with this rally.
You mean the last 4 days the dollar's been going down?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because if they're talking about lowering interest rates, the dollar has to be going down. What's your point with that, Brooke?
Well, I guess my point is that the gains might seem like we're getting rich, but when we're losing purchasing power on the other end of those,
you're saying even though we're getting richer from the stock market, the dollar itself is actually getting weaker.
Right, which is it gets even worse. It's going to turn into a real horror story now because the dollar is getting weaker, so it's destroying the purchasing power of little old ladies and cab drivers who have very small amounts of savings that they need for groceries.
Wait, why are you leaving me and Anthony
during the winter and gasoline, and it's making the price of those things go up. And then the people with big stock portfolios at the top of the hierarchy are actually swimming in it. They're hoovering up the purchasing power, the savings of little old ladies and cab drivers.
I got you.
And house cleaners.
Yeah, you're saying basically, the dollar going down is still going to have a really negative impact, even though stock markets are going up. I got you. Well, so, I mean, I think at this point, if we're thinking about the stock market and whether a person wants to invest more, I'm always talking about a 60-20-20 rule. Have 20% of your income regularly getting invested in the stock market. My whole argument is, I got a bunch of arguments around that. We won't get into it today. But if this trade war is going to get more and more intense, which it seems like it's becoming more than just a pissing match between us and China, I think that shit is going to get more serious, and you still want to hold out. We could get some bumpier turbulence, bumpier flight right now with all these problems with the trade war. And so even if the Fed were to lower rates, I think that wouldn't really have enough impact right away. We're getting a nice little... What it is it's basically a morphine drip. When the Fed is willing to cut interest rates, they're basically going to drip us with our economy with more morphine. And that shit is not a long-term solution. Morphine is just to kind of numb the pain for a little bit. So I think if this trade war is legit, which I do think it is, I think China's getting for real right now. I don't think we'll get to a shooting war, but it'll become a full-blown trade war where like people are afraid to go travel to China. We're like moving all our factories or manufacturing facilities out of China into other places like Vietnam or other places. Like it's going to just get ugly. And I think the stock market could really continue to take a big hit. So what I'm saying is, if it's me, I'm continuing to invest my 20%. If I was going to try and invest more money, right, be smart, like Warren Buffett says, be scared when people are greedy and be greedy when people are scared. I think there's going to be more fear coming in the next 3 months. So I'd be holding off, keeping some powder dry until shit gets, more down in the dumps. And that's when I'd be investing. that's my take on the stock market and tariffs. Do you have an opinion, Brooke, on that?
Well, it sounds like you're doing a little bit of market timing, which is different than your, kind of consistent weekly 20% contribution or so. So what you've said is something I would agree with, which is, it's good to have a discipline with investing, but there's different ways to make money in the markets. And when you are encroaching or approaching a correction in the market based on all statistics, then I think cash is a fine position. You may even want to, if there is some kind of a correction like 2008, you may want to wait a while before you reinvest in. But great fortunes have been built on buying a diversified portfolio in the midst of a crash.
Right. Just to be clear, Brooke, I am saying a person should continue even through these past few weeks and in the next few weeks. Just keep putting in your 20%. You got to have the discipline.
I think that's a fair statement. Thanks for correcting me, and now you're much more clear because it's then you avoid the market timing, which is impossible. Like you probably do want to stick with it because if that drop comes in one day, I know a classic example. I changed my mother's portfolio over a few years ago during that crash, and it was a lucky thing. She was just changing some investments, and she missed the day of the crash. She just happened to be out of the market, and then she got right back in like 3 or 4 days later.
Wow.
And participated in all the upside.
That's great.
And that was just pure luck.
The only market timing that I believe in is when there is a huge correction like we had in 2008, when you start to see really blood in the streets. You're down 20%, down 30%, down 40%, down 50%. It's like, I'd be waving that in all day long. When everyone's selling and running for the exits, I'm like, that's when I want to be buying a little bit, because if it's a long-term play, you want to buy when it's cheapest. And I think the way our government is set up, the whole Fed's mandate is to make sure financial markets are quote-unquote stable. So they're always trying to lift markets. And here we go. The moment markets start...
Well, you end up making bets on who you think will survive the purge.
Right.
So I would be selective on what you buy. I mean, it would be a stock picker's market right now. It's just it's an equity index buying market. Or, you just buy the whole market and all boats rise and rising tide. But there will be stock picking moments. My other suggestion is that it doesn't hurt to allocate a few quid or a few US dollars to physical gold.
Physical gold.
Physical gold.
So, Anthony, do you own any gold?
Not that I know of.
No? What?
Not that I know of.
What's funny is like when I was younger, I remember like getting these like different things for like first communion and stuff. It was like bonds and silver, and I'm like, I asked my mom, I'm like, where did all that go? And she's like, oh, I don't know. You got to ask your father. I'm like, well, he's not alive. One, to ask. Two, do you know what he did with it? And she's like, I have no idea. So I'm like, those were gifts. Like you're supposed to like hold on to and invest. So I'm like, and we have no idea where they are.
Dad must have had a long night one day.
He had 8 kids, so he's probably paying off the.
You're
whatever.
one of 8?
Yeah.
Oh snap.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Those turned into like Cheerios one day.
I wonder why they kept him in his closet. It's like, don't touch that.
I'm gonna need it one day. So why should Anthony buy gold? You think, if he's gonna be like trying to be a smart investor?
I believe it. I believe it's definitely got a part in a diversified portfolio, and if your market timing, the timing's quite excellent currently.
Oh really? Gold is cheap.
Yeah. Compared to where it could be in 5
here.
years.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to look into this now that you got me going here. But
what were you gonna say?
Just not to get all conspiracy theories, but do you think that some of this is intentional? What? Like with these, if you're saying that that people are gonna buy when there's fear, like do you think that the Trump administration, whoever, are purposely manipulating it so that we create this chaotic belief on the news every day that we're doing this with China, we're doing this with Mexico. Fear. And anybody who has any sense of the stock market is not your average Joe walking around on diversity right now. It's probably people that are in the 1% that are going to look right at it and be like, all right, this is the time we're going to scoop it up, and there goes our money right up.
Wow. I mean, there could be truth to that for 2 reasons. One, if he's let's say falsely creating these trade wars in a way.
I mean, not that he's saying like he's falsely, but like that he's actually going to follow through with it. Like,
Right.
what do we even know what's going on with the wall in Mexico?
Politics is Hollywood for ugly people.
There you
Politics
go.
is
There you go.
Hollywood.
Exactly. Well, it's like, what's going on with the wall? Is that wall built? Has that even been started? That's all we heard about during the whole campaign trail. But have we seen a single brick been built yet?
Oh, no.
That's what I'm saying.
The funds for it got rejected, and so he's trying to like appropriate other funds to get that thing built. But I do think if this is a really interesting point you bring up. So, like, let's say he's not truly going to go through with all these tariffs. I mean, he has gone through with some of them. Some of them
You just have to fluff your chest.
Well, did you see
It's like the drunk guy at a bar. It's like, I'm going to hit you. But, like, then the guy never does anything.
Right.
You know?
He did threaten Mexico with tariffs. He threatened Mexico with tariffs, and they sent their National Guard to the border to prevent
Again, that
immigration.
could be like your beer muscles. Like let's make people freak. I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist anyway, so it's like, I'm just.
It's really odd. You know, it is odd. You know, it's like I find the images odd just at a natural level, that we live in this world where essentially soldiers are standing on a line and keeping people contained, like in outdoor prison. They're not allowed to cross over the Rio Grande.
Yeah, you're saying that imagery is powerful to you?
Yeah, it's powerful to me because it just seems so odd. You know, I mean, who controls which currency, territories, and you have the passports, which I'm always dealing with, work visas here in England.
Right.
It's just, there's a lot of, you know, we're sort of born into this system that was created long before us, and we're kind of cogs in it, and so that we have our social security number, we're tracked from birth with a certificate. Even when we die, our death is certified.
Right.
That goes back to the
And
whole question of freedom.
That comes to the front of my mind. What's that?
So it goes back to like the whole theory of freedom. Like, oh yeah, I can do whatever I want in this country. I'm free. But I'm like, are you?
Right.
Go take a vacation unpaid for 2 weeks and see what happens to your house, your dog, your loans, whatever you've got taken out. See if you're free. These are financial shackles that are attached to all of us. We're all somewhat of a slave, whether we want to admit it, unless we're making millions. And
Yeah. We're using a different word. You're right. I totally agree. Yeah, we're. I mean, look, we enjoy a level of freedom in that we can eat an orange or we can eat a candy bar, and we can. I mean, unless the far right keeps coming at us, we're still allowed to sleep with who we want.
Right.
You know what? On that note, let's shift and jump.
Can I ask you a quick question about the trade
go
war?
for it.
Okay, so 2 questions first. First question is the market back to where it was before it started crashing? Because I looked at the graph and it kind of roughly looked like it was, but I'm not sure.
It's not far off. It's probably made up most of. It's up. The market's up 7% in the last 4 sessions. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it jumped 7%. That's a huge number. That just shows you how big and important the Fed is.
And that's
it's one of the biggest rallies in history. I mean, they tend to be record breaking.
And that's just because the Fed said
big
they
bubbles.
might.
Yeah.
The Fed said, they're like, if we got to lower rates,
So it wasn't even for sure.
Oh yeah, it's not even for sure. No,
And it went up that much.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I know.
Think about all those options traders that just got pounded because the VIX jumped here, and they're always short. They're always going to take the little loss when the VIX jumped, but the volatility index jumped massively.
It must have,
with the big route down and then the big route right back up again.
Yeah, you can actually in the stock market and bond market, you can trade volatility. So if things are really volatile, you can actually make money betting. Oh, things are going to be super volatile. Price is going to be jumping up and down a lot. You can actually bet on that. That's what Brooke's talking about.
How would you bet?
You can bet on it through. I think that you can trade it in an index. The ticker's called VIX.
You're trying to predict the failure of it.
Yeah, you're trying to predict how volatile things are going to be. Are they going to be super jumpy, or are they going to be? Are we? You can bet on panics. Are we going to have a panic? You can actually make money. It's like
sounds like gambling.
It does feel like gambling.
Are we really going to lose our minds?
Trading the VIX sounds like you're exchanging vapor rub behind the school for a few bucks.
All right, so let's talk about.
My second question.
Oh,
sorry.
okay. I'm sorry.
The second question. With the trade wars, so it seems to be every time Trump does something like tariffs or whatever like that, it's like the market tends to go down.
Yes.
So could it be that Trump is like like manually recessing the market as opposed to having a spontaneous recession?
It's
In
funny
order
you
to
say that.
Control it a little bit better.
The only way I could see him trying to manually lower the market using these tariffs / taxes on Americans is to force the Fed's hand, right? He could be like, all right, I'm going to F with the Fed. I'm going to keep doing these tariffs and these taxes on Americans and, F with our relationship with China and Mexico, really mess shit up, get the market down 10, 20, 30%, and the Fed will have to lower interest rates. He would love it if the Fed took interest rates back to zero because that would make the stock market boom into 2020. And guess what?
He'll get reelected.
Re-election. So he could be in that way. I want to think that he wouldn't F with the market that much, but you know what? He potentially would. He knows it well enough that he could potentially do something like that.
Powell's raised rates here and put a squeeze on this economy already.
Wait, I didn't understand you. I didn't say it one more time, Brooke, slower.
Rates have been going up over the last couple of years by the federal action. So
yes,
there has been a squeeze on the U.S. economy.
Yes,
and right now that means the cost of cash to operate the government has been going up.
Yes,
and so again, this is if you're thinking
the
about
government borrows a lot of money and pays interest on that money in order to fund the government. And you're saying their cost has been going up.
Right. The cash flow statement is Trump needs to get cash coming in by taxing imported goods. Now, read the economic history of Argentina for a case study in how disastrous this can go. And obviously, tariffs preceded World War II, but it doesn't need to be a world war. It can just be, I don't know, a currency collapse, a major change in all the centralized corporate kind of control. I mean, the agrarian societies are in a far better position to weather this kind of storm than we are as a first world country.
Right. All right. On that note, we need to switch to Brooke because Brooke got a huge, amazing story. All right. So Brooke used to be a trader. Brooke, you used to trade equity index futures, and you used to trade Bund interest rate futures as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, Bund interest rate futures. So the Bund is the German government bond. So when Germany wants to raise money, they will use Bunds, and then Brooke will be one of the traders who trades those Bunds. In addition, you were trading equity indices. So like what? Would you trade the S&P 500, for example?
I was trading the futures contract on the German Bund, and I was trading the futures contract on the Euro Stoxx equity index, which is like the European Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Gotcha. All right, and how old were you when you started trading?
I was late compared to some of the people I started with. So I went back to stocking refrigerators for guys in their early 20s, and I was 29.
Wow. Meaning like you were an assistant for some of these traders?
Yeah, I was fetching lunch for kids that were millionaires that were a few years younger than me, 4 or 5 years younger than me.
Nothing like that to knock you down a few pegs on your ego.
Yeah. So I had been out. I had been out gathering assets for this company called the Burridge Group, which was a boutique investment management firm, and I had raised $300 million for them in the Midwest in 7 states in less than 2 years.
Wow. All right, I got you.
But there was some growing pains there for and that's another story. But nonetheless, a colleague that I had been with me there got me involved with a futures trading firm called Marquette Partners. And then I launched out of here in London as a rookie on my own account and sort of built my way from trading one contract to trading 900 to doing 10, 20,000, 30,000 contracts a day.
Wow. Now, okay, so to the extent you're willing to share numbers and understand these kinds of, to the extent you're willing to share some of this information so we understand what we're talking about here, you would now, were you like one of the traders in the pits physically trading, or were you more electronically trading?
I was trained down on the Chicago Board of Trade as a clerk and as a squawker. So when we were training, we had an operation that would arbitrage the 10-year U.S. Treasury futures pit with the electronic market in the same contract. So we would squawk into a phone reading the hand signals in the pit. 5 bid at 6, 6 bid, 6 bid at 7, at 6, at 5, at 4, 4 bid at 5. And
you were like a go-between between the pits and upstairs traders.
Yeah, so I would be squawking. I'd say 200 traded, 50 traded, and that would give and that combined with the roar of the pit would give the screen traders a little bit of edge in an emotional time in the market to step out and believe in the trade they were making. Because the idea in the intraday trading markets is you just need follow through.
Right.
It's slightly greater fool in that way.
Let's be very clear. So like I'm always talking about disciplined investing, keep investing 20% of your income every week, so on and so forth. What Brooke was doing is the absolute exact opposite end of the spectrum to that. Brooke is day trading, if not day trading, moment to moment trading. Buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, trying to feel the emotion and momentum of the market and make money that way. Is that correct, Brooke?
In some cases. I mean, I would hold positions when I was a spreader, when I was spreading the 2-year German government bond with the 5-year, that's the Babel and the Schatz. I would hold trades for hours, but those were spreads. I mean, you had to get a strong
instead of
bladder.
seconds, you hold trades for hours.
When I was spreading, I definitely hold them for hours. So you need a strong bladder sitting at your desk there because you literally couldn't take your eyes off it. You'd be counting contracts, seeing which one's traded.
All right, Brooke,
did they ever make the futures diaper or something like that?
Say again?
The futures diaper.
Futures diaper.
The S&P
That's a great
index
product.
diaper.
Brooke, I used to have the same problem at JP Morgan, man. I would not go to the bathroom till closing, till 4 o'clock. Brooke, did you ever piss yourself?
No. I got discipline.
What a question! You ever shit yourself on the trading floor?
I'm sure people have, right?
Come on, you can be honest. We're not going to tell anybody.
No one's listening.
That trading lifestyle kind of makes me think of whenever you're hiding or something like that, and even though you just peed, you all of a sudden have to pee again.
Yeah,
I feel like you've constantly got that feeling while you're doing this, whatever you're constant trading.
Yeah, because then you're thinking about it. Like, oh no,
and
am I going to have to go?
Adrenaline flowing. I feel like that's what it would be like.
Yeah,
sounds like it'd be kind of cool.
What's one of the biggest trades you ever did, Brooke, notional size or principal size? I assume you're doing trades of 100 million, 200 million, 300 million worth of value, right?
Yeah, I mean definitely hundreds of millions. It becomes a bit of a game.
You said game?
Yeah, a game like you don't think about the money, you think about ticks, getting ticks out of the market. And you think about round turns and how many contracts you're putting on. And you do know if you make 1,000 ticks, that's $10,000. And a tick is the minimum price movement. So, you put this notional value at risk intraday. And, yeah, I mean, I've been trusted with hundreds of millions of dollars of leverage at any given moment in the market. I mean, I had on Martin Luther King Day in 2008, might have been 2007 now that I think about it. But I basically tipped the market with, I don't know, maybe 800 contracts on, and it was a quiet moment, and it tumbled, and it didn't stop going down until I started buying them back.
Oh, snap. So you sold 800 contracts, and with that sale, the market kind of got spooked out, and so other people started selling along with you. And now you're like, oh, man, my 800 are doing fantastic because everyone's selling and the market's going down. And if I remember right, there had been a rogue trader at Société Générale in France, and they were liquidating his portfolio. And I just happened to catch the timing really right. I mean, one of the other large days was the London bombing. You traded the London bombing?
Yeah, I bought bonds. I did
remind me, is that that was the trains, right? There was a terrorist.
Yeah, trains and buses.
Trains
so
and buses.
in the news was unclear in the morning, so we're working through what is going on. There's a fire on the train? Okay. There's another train on fire. There's 2 trains on fire right now, and now there's a bus on fire. There's something really going on here. So you could start buying bonds with that kind of following the story through the morning. I mean, I came in earlier, on one of the trains that was attacked. So that was an emotional
you were physically
day.
on the train that was attacked right before it was attacked?
I was on the Jubilee line. Yeah, I was at not anywhere close to where the attack happened, but
Sure.
I came in. I'd come in through there. So, but it's an emotional moment when you're, first of all, you're doing your job, so you're actually making money as we're under attack. And then, in my case, I just remember sort of tearing up, like, holy shit, when's this going to end? I mean, you have a desire to run out on the street, but it's all happening so quick that that's how markets move.
Wow, that's powerful. So, how did you? Can anyone be a trader? Like, if Anthony wanted to be a trader, can he just go out and be a trader, and someone will fund him with some money, and he can then go trade hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of contracts?
Well, it depends. It depends on if you got relationships, I think. But I could go in right now with a relationship with a clearing firm in the city of London in Tower 42, and I could probably put down 20,000 pounds. They know how I trade. They give me some contracts, and that's a minimum barrier to entry. I think you gotta. You get your background checked and all those things. I mean, people need to know your net worth, or you got to bring some money in to get leverage from somebody else, because you're benefiting from the collected pool of cash, and the leverage is getting used by different traders at different times. So, but you could get involved in futures trading for 20,000 British pounds sterling.
Okay, so if a person here in the U.S. in Chicago, if Anthony wanted, or Yahya wanted to get involved, they'd round up 20 grand in U.S. dollars or some number around that amount. They would knock on the doors of some of these futures firms, these companies, and be like, "Yo, can I sit with you guys, give you some of my money, and maybe you'll let me have a seat here in a way where I can use your platform, your name, to trade through you guys in an effort to make money for myself."
You rent a desk, and they clear the trade. So you've got an exchange, and each exchange has clearing firms, and this is sort of like their syndicate. This is how the exchange can guarantee every trade, because they've got clearing firms that have put down large amounts of capital that can guarantee every trade of any trader that trades through them. So the clearing firm you approach is on the hook for you, and they'll make sure they're watching you close. They'll never let you go in the red. They'll blow out your account. They'll take every trade off in your account immediately if they think you're going red.
Does that make sense to you, Anthony?
Not really.
No. What? Which part aren't you understanding?
I'm not following. I'm like, and I feel like the general people probably listening probably don't. Like, you guys are on a different level. I think
that's what I'm worried about.
Him and I are kind of like, yeah. I mean, like, from a very basic understand. Like, I showed you my Fidelity portfolio. I just put that together with oh, I've heard Google will do well, or I've heard Apple, so I picked safe bets, but I don't really understand what exactly they're doing on a day-to-day basis. If I log in and my money's going up, I'm happy, and if it doesn't, then as long as it's not dropping significantly.
Right.
But it's to me, it's like the stock market's a whole. This is where I feel like it's easy for it to be manipulated, especially by the higher 1%. Is that everybody else is worrying? You talk about trickle down. Less affluent people are worrying about paying their bill on time and living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And I'm not saying you guys are super billionaires or anything like that, that you're disconnected from that. It's just that I just think it's a separate language, that it's so complicated that most people on a day-to-day are not even aware of how it works, even on a basic level. So if you took what most people get it's basic, kind of medium, complex, and then where you guys are probably at. I'm probably on the second and a half tier where I actually can follow it.
Right. Yeah,
there's a lot of scams out there that sort of prey on people who hear about trading, and they sort of are interested in the idea of it, and it's the currency trading company. So you never want to sort of get involved with somebody doing Forex.
Right. I'd like to learn about it, but as far as resources that are out there, I don't even know where you'd even begin.
Right.
Other than just being in learning another language. You're not going to learn. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me. But if I was going to learn another language, I lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in Puerto Rico. That's the only time my Spanish was almost
spot
perfect,
on. Yeah,
right. And I've tried to carry it on since I've lived here, and it doesn't work.
No,
and I feel you're not going to learn trading futures S&P index jargon and lingo
You gotta
unless
be
you've
using
been
it
on the
every day.
floor, and doing it every day and risking losing millions.
Right. That's when you really want to
Right.
learn.
So it's like
Well,
if you guys know of resources, I want to learn about it because
Well-
I think it's an untapped resource for how to make money without having to take on an extra time constraint in your schedule. Like, oh, I have to get another job now.
Right.
Like when you could just be like, all right, I'm going to invest, I'm going to
Focus
trade,
here
I'm
and
going
try
to
and
do this
trade.
and do that, and you could actually make a lot of money
Stay
doing
tuned
it.
with this podcast, first of all.
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. What we're talking about here is like, hey, Brooke, you were able to be one of those independent guys. You didn't have to go and interview at J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs or anywhere. How did you become that independent guy? And he's saying basically, I started out as a clerk. I started running tickets and I started squawking.
It's like
through a-
comedy. Like you worked your way, you did open mics at the bottom, and you worked
Exactly.
his way up.
Yeah.
Most people aren't doing that, so I think nobody has any clue. So when they hear, most people when they hear the stock is going down, they're like either they're upset because like a lot of my clients have a lot of money, so
Right.
they're like, oh shit,
Right.
and then but most people are like, oh cool, what's J-Lo up to? You know, like and they're gonna go to the next thing.
That's
you know?
true.
It's
Yeah.
it's just not.
Unless they have a bunch of
it's
money.
such an intricate part of our American, like the culture and the well-being and the day-to-day functioning for us to be like sustained as like a normal country that's gonna be operating successfully, but yet it's the most misunderstood or
Absolutely.
ununderstood thing that's part of that, which is kind of ironic because it's like
So important.
If anybody was as educated as you guys are on it on an average level, you know, you talk about like Google and being under investigation. It's like these big power monger, like just maybe it's just the fact that they're big and they're powerful that they're threatened. Like you said earlier, you know, it's like people. I think it's a complicated thing, but maybe there's a I don't know. Maybe it's just people are just in the dark and they're that's their own fault that they're not educated on it.
Oh no, it's definitely a combination of
or is it
complexity.
right, or is it complex to keep people out intentionally?
Yes.
You know, so that they don't.
Yeah,
get it.
unnecessarily complex meanings for things that aren't that complex. There's a lot of euphemisms. Yeah, there's a lot of language that is unnecessarily difficult to understand.
Yeah, because even my clients, when they're watching like the ticker when we're working out and they see like the stock has dropped, they yell. They're like, "Oh shit!" But I'm like, "Do you actually get what those numbers mean?" And they're like, "Oh no." They just see their money. That's all they see is their money. The bottom line is their money went down. So even people who have invested millions of their own,
Even they don't
even
get it.
get it.
They
you
just know that they lost 10 grand.
Right, and there's a guy that I train who works for J.P. Morgan, and he's like a president, and I don't think he even gets it. You know,
Wow, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, if you guys know, other than being in the front line and on the floor, where are there resources like for people to educate themselves on a basic level to understand it,
Yeah, I mean,
or is there not?
there are resources.
I tried like subscribing to the Wall Street Journal, like Financial Times.
Yeah.
And you read them, and you're like, I still don't get it.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky. That's why I was saying with Brooke is like, hey, if Anthony wanted to like really get into this, and let's say one day he wanted to be a part-time trader, but he's willing to go full-time for the next 2 years, full tilt, 24 months, can he do it? And I think what I'm getting from Brooke is, yeah, Anthony can go knock on a futures company's door, and these next 10 of them, he'll just knock on 10 of them, be like, hey, I got 20 grand. Anybody willing to give me to rent the desk and trade through you guys? And a bunch of these places will probably say, yeah, we'll take your 20 grand and you could trade through us.
Do they give you this 20 grand back? Is it like a security deposit kind of thing or no?
Brooke, how would you answer that?
I didn't hear the question.
The 20 grand that you give these firms, is it like a security deposit? Like, oh, we're holding it right now, or is it like you're paying it to them in order to use their firm?
You're paying it to them, and they'll. Well, no, you don't pay it to them. No, it's a security deposit. But your desk fees draw down through that. Your desk could cost you $1,000 or maybe $500 a month, and if you're just in an open galley, and then you have software that you might need to trade with that could cost another $1,000. So you could start drawing down on that real quick, and if you get it down to about $5 grand, they'd probably just shut you down and say, you're welcome to come back another time.
Let me clarify. So you'd give that 20 grand. They'd start using it right away for the desk and the software. They'd take $1,000 or $1,500 out that month right away. And
This
then
is 20 grand a month?
No, you just give them a $20,000 security deposit.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then you start trading through their platform. And if you buy this S&P 500 futures contract, let's say you buy one contract, all right, and it goes up, and you make $3,000 that day, and then you sell and get out of that position, you now can take $3,000 out, put it in your pocket, and walk away, and you still have 20. Now, let's say instead of making that $3,000, you actually went down $3,000. You don't have to give them $3,000. Your deposit just went from 20 to 17.
Oh, wait, but you're still paying for the software and the desk.
That's like a monthly rent. Yeah,
That's okay. That's different than 20K.
sure. You can think about it differently. Yes.
It's like owning an apartment and then being like, well, I had a party and I destroyed the wall. Okay, well, the wall is coming out of your security deposit.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what I think.
So that's what I was thinking. Okay.
Right.
And so Brooke's saying, yeah, if Anthony wanted to get in there, he'd sit next to a couple dudes. Anthony would start asking them questions like, hey, what is the S&P 500? What is this contract?
Would they answer your questions, or would they be too busy trading?
Depends on how likable you are.
Yeah. Is Anthony willing to take him out for a drink or
and
not?
you have to start with 20 grand. Can we start with $20? I'm down to $4 already, guys. It was fun.
Well, they do this in England here. They have spread betting firms that drop those trades down to minuscule amounts. So there's always an opportunity to trade options, even if it's on sports.
Well, Brooke, so, all right, can a person do it part-time? Let's say, like, you're no longer trading, I assume, actively
Correct.
the way you were. Is that something
Yeah.
you'd consider going back and doing part-time?
I believe it's somewhat of a young man's game. I don't like being in front of a computer screen more than I need to be. I tend to want to be out with people face to face. And when you spend, 12 hours a day in front of 6 computer screens, you sometimes wonder, what am I doing here? How much money do I need? Is there a destination, or am I always just going to be fighting with faceless people on the other sides of numbers, bids and offers? So I step away from it. I have a long physical gold position. I took delivery on some bars at the Board of Trade, and that's where I stand. That's sort of, that plays into my point of view in general about where we are timing wise. But I'm comfortable with that position.
Gotcha. So you're saying, Amr, I probably wouldn't go back and actively trade, even if it was part-time. I mean, do you think it can work where you go into the office for 3 hours and then go home and make a little money, or
I think it's.
Or would you
From
need
what
to
I
be, or
understand-
would you need to be there 12 hours, 5 days a week to really get in the flow?
Yeah, and not only that, but you're not trading that much. So you're just sitting around, killing time, waiting hour after hour, day after day sometimes, for an actual news event or something that's going to bring in enough volatility where you're not getting your pockets picked. Because in quiet markets, if you're putting on trades, the market will get pushed against you.
All right, so this is a valuable thing, Anthony. Brooke's saying, even if you went and took your 20 grand to a futures trading firm, you'd have to resort to a life of sitting in front of computers, watching all these different types of news stories, these different types of analyses to understand when to buy, when to sell, how to buy, how to sell.
So it would be like a much more productive Facebook.
Yes, a way more
You'd have to
productive
sit in front of your
Facebook.
computer all day, reading all these stories about all these different things, and just be scrolling and potentially make 20 grand.
Yeah.
That's what they should do. If you're on Facebook arguing too much, they should just boot you and make you a trader.
Yeah.
You'd be good doing this.
All of a sudden, this guy's like, man, I was arguing with a guy in the UK about the Trump election, and now I'm a millionaire. The productivity level just shot to the roof here.
Wow. So yeah, you're saying so part time. Even if Anthony wanted to get all the resources and learn it all, it'd kind of become a full time thing for you. And I don't know if you'd want that. You become a hermit is
I
not
think
the.
I think it would get fun if it was part time. I think if it was full time, you'd probably lose your mind.
Yeah, you want the markets to serve you. So in that particular style I was doing, I would say those days have passed for now. But yeah, it's all just on how you want to spend your time, I suppose. The markets should be serving us. We shouldn't be serving the markets. And if you're sitting in front of the screens that often, there's just other things that are far more fun to do.
Right.
All right, Brooke. If Anthony did want to commit 12 hours, 5 days a week, and really go full tilt, based on your experience, based on your own history, to the extent you're willing to share, like what could he make if he's a run of the mill average trader? Not the best, but also not the worst. He's actually kind of working it out. What can futures traders make? Independent futures traders.
I don't think anybody who succeeds in trading makes less than $100,000 a year. I mean, it's either you're not making money, which I know traders who went a few years without making money. I've certainly done that myself. But some futures traders that are out there are making $100,000. Some are making far more than that, but they're fewer and further between these days because the algorithmic trading programs have taken over the markets. Most decisions being made in the market are being made by pre-programmed algorithms. So there's not a lot of guys. The amount of proprietary traders out there shrunk significantly. So there's not, the bids and offers out there are not the same as they used to be. They used to be distributed among thousands of traders all around in every market. And that's consolidated massively. So if someone shuts those computers off, I'm not sure where the liquidity is in the market.
Gotcha. So you're saying that, hey, if you're a successful trader, you're not making less than $100,000. The fact is, there's less of those types of traders than there used to be.
It's like being a lawyer.
Yeah, and it is stressful.
The 80s even.
And it's stressful, and so it's like, in this way, it's like Texas Hold'em. You're playing with a stack of chips. When you draw down, if you have 2-3 days drawdown, you probably take a break. I mean, I haven't, and it's been gone poorly in the past. You need a break because it's a mental game. I mean, imagine working 12 hours and then leaving there with less money than you started.
Right. I trained like 4 traders, and often.
And you mean like
personal training?
Personal training.
This was gone a lot of the times.
Gone? What do you mean gone?
I'd be like, "Where'd you went? You responded to my text." They like destroyed it.
They destroyed their phone.
It's apparently like a thing on the trading floor. They just destroy their.
They physically just throw it against the wall.
Mad. They lost thousands of dollars in like a heartbeat or more than that.
Oh,
and this is not just one person. The first guy, I was like, oh, maybe he has an anger management problem. And it's like, no, dude. He's like, this is all over the floor. Like people just destroying their phones. So,
I did used to. I had a physical hand phone that I used to sometimes when I get really pissed. I used to slam it against the desk.
They should have just stocked them with
totally
like flip phones, so they didn't destroy an iPhone. They'd be like, "You damn flip phone!"
Wow.
So I'll do research and try to find a resource. So by the next time we do this podcast, to see if there's a resource. I bought some book at like Barnes and Noble. It was like before you begin trading, and it didn't help. There's got to be like a basic jargon book somewhere, and I'll have to do some research.
I mean, the big takeaway Brooke and I are kind of saying, which I agree with Brooke, is like, if you're gonna get a resource for the purpose of making money in the markets, it should be something where you think long-term / discipline type of investing. If you're looking for something where you're day trading so that you can do part-time shit, you're probably not going to do too well because your mind is not going to be in the game for 12 straight hours a day, 5 days a week. So, and you got
to have risk managers and stuff. But speaking to the stress, because you made me think of a story around 2006. I had a manager named Dave Feltus, and he ended up being head of the CME Group Europe. So Dave Feltus, he was my risk manager, and I remember having a 200 lot on of the firm's money. So, yeah, you're talking about significant leverage in the market. And he came over to my desk, and I was trading
That's
during.
probably $20 million worth of principal, a 200 lot.
Right. And so, so he comes over to my desk because I'm trading during the quiet time. I'm probing the market. I'm trying to get a feel for it. And his face comes right next to mine like the Predator, and he's like, "Stop trading like a idiot."
Very supportive.
Yeah. And I got the firm's money at risk, so I'm fucking boiling, which is not good for trading.
Was it Predator or was it Alien where the mouth just opened up in your face?
It was, yeah. It was.
He didn't even say anything. He just growled at you. Yeah, it was just the big saliva string.
I can't think of a better way to end this podcast than that image eating Brooke Hoerr's head. Brooke, thanks for being on this show, brother. I appreciate you jumping on with us, man.
My pleasure. Pleasure talking with both you fellas,
too, man.
and all three of you. I can't see someone outside the camera.
Yeah.
Great talk with everybody, and
You
I'll
too, man.
talk with you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being with us, Anthony Bonazzo.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Good luck and break a leg tomorrow at the auditions.
Thank you.
Anything you want to plug?
Everything I'm doing, it'll be over by the time this airs.
Yes, right.
Tonight I'll be at the Improv in Schaumburg. Tomorrow I'm just doing the NBC stand-up audition during the day, and then I have a show fundraiser at the Crowd Theater.
Okay.
And then maybe Sunday if I get a call back.
Anything next week that you might want to plug, like a Friday night show or something, or Saturday night show?
I'm not even sure. I
June
don't think
14th
so.
or 15th? Nothing? Okay.
No.
We'll get you plugged on the next
I got like House of Blues coming up. I think it's not next week because they're closed, but the following Tuesday I'll be there again. So
Okay, that would
they
be
do comedy cocktails every
18th,
every Tuesday.
June 18th, Tuesday, June 18th.
I believe I'm there.
You're at House of Blues.
that night. Yeah.
All right, check out House of Blues website, June 18th, if you want to hear more of Anthony. Yeah, thanks for being here, brother.
Anytime, man. My pleasure.
My beast, my millennial beast. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Peace.